Welcome to another episode of Get Real. I'm your host, Tom Lemons, here with Hernando County Commissioner Steve Champion.
What's up?
He loves to come back here and tell us what's going on in the county. We have a lot of stuff to unpack tonight. And so let's get right to it. So, Steve, how you doing?
Good. You?
Good. Fantastic. A lot of developments going on around the county and around the country right now. Mm-hmm. A lot of things that, and again, I think we're going to start off with the Charlie Kirk issue. Mm-hmm. What an incredibly sad, horrible thing. You know, and we'll get into why, but give me your feelings on Charlie Kirk and what he meant to you.
I'd say it's tough to even talk about. Even in our meeting, I was choking up my words just even speaking about him, and I felt like I knew the guy because I would watch him on a daily basis on YouTube or follow him on all the social media platforms, and just a genuine guy that his movement really changed the trajectory of our country, especially with the youth. Mm-hmm. He finally woke them up because I hate to use that word woke, but he did. He woke them up because they were indoctrinated in these colleges and they didn't have the right information. And he would go there with just a simple, "Hey, prove me wrong.
Right. If
I'm wrong, talk to me. We can have some dialogue." I think that was fantastic. And he was very polite to even the people that disagree with him, which is so, I couldn't believe it when I heard it happen because he's the last person you think somebody would shoot. I mean, he welcomed debate. He welcomed other opinions. He had them move to the front of the line so they could talk to him and prove me wrong. He would say all the time, "I'm not even a college graduate," but that guy was smarter than probably anybody in politics. There's no doubt about it. And they saw him as a threat. And but the bottom line is this whole thing is all the lunatic left. That's all I can say. Every one of these shooters, every one of these terrorists, they're all on the left. And that's where you're seeing this rhetoric come out, like even with Jimmy Kimmel and all the other stuff. It's not us. It's not the Republican Party shutting them down. We didn't go in there with a law and shut them down or anything. It's advertisers and the networks are going, "This is not good for business anymore. Have you seen where we're going? Mm-hmm. Nobody's watching. We're losing money." That's what it boils down to. And that's so. And I've always said this too. If there's a company I disagree with in politics, I don't pick at them. I don't call them names. I just don't spend any money with them. I don't spend any money, and I don't watch their stuff. Right. And you know what? If enough of us do that, you bankrupt them with their business. That's it. And you know what? Then they'll learn because even though you have free speech, there's consequences still. If you say something, well, if you have a business, they just won't stop your business. And that's what it boils down to with the network, because the network decided, hey, this is not good. Both sides. I mean, nobody should laugh at this. There's people on social media laughing about his death. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
He's a father with 2 toddlers. What's wrong with you people? He was killed, assassinated in front of hundreds of millions of people probably online. I mean, it's everywhere. I didn't even want to see it. Somebody sent it to me and I opened it quickly and I saw it. And I can't unsee it. It was so horrible.
It's the most horrible thing I think I've ever seen. Watched it one time and it was the last time I saw it. And I mean, you've said a few things here that are absolutely profound, which are the truth, right? We have an individual who did nothing but preach love and acceptance. Mm-hmm. Unlike the way they say acceptance is supposed to be preached, but his point of acceptance was, look, I'm saved. I believe in Jesus Christ. I'm a Christian. And I believe that whatever, I love everyone and Jesus loves everyone. And that is where I'm at. Matter of fact, his exact words was, "I believe in saved and unsaved." And he wants to be able to bring people to Christ. That was his whole motive. Look, we're all sinners, right? So whether you're a Christian or not, all he wanted to do, he had a movement and it grew and it was popular and people loved it. Now the left is trying to make it like, oh, he was just some kind of social media influencer who had, that's all he had. A bunch of wacko right-wing MAGA supporters, right? No. He had millions of supporters around the world. And as you can see that through this.
I have a 14 and 17-year-old, and they knew who he was.
Yeah.
And they don't even know what I do. Oh, probably. I mean, if you would have asked them, they're like, Daddy's in politics. I don't want nothing to do with that.
Right.
But they knew what Charlie Kirk was about.
Right.
That's the reach he had.
Right.
To them. And, he wasn't, demonizing, even though he would say that there's some things on the left that are sins, and you're gonna have to meet your maker and talk to your maker about that one day. I mean, all of us got to, we're gonna have that judgment day, and he would just preach love and stuff. I just don't understand. Even if you were not religious, I think someone said it the other day. It's common sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's morals,
right?
It should be common sense to not steal, to not kill somebody, to not assault somebody. It should be like, what does the Bible say? Do unto others as you want done unto you.
Want done unto you. Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I don't want anybody murdering me, so I'm not going to murder them. I'm not going to assault somebody because I don't want somebody assaulting me. So common sense, even if you're not religious. So to me, if you look at the guy that shot him, he was with his trans boyfriend. It's a mental illness. Right. He had mental illness here, and then all of the shooters. I mean, you got to be mentally ill to do something like that anyway. But if you look back, it's all the left. And then in the new survey that came out, did you see that poll that came out?
No.
Where they were asking Democrats and Republicans, and they said, so I'll start with conservatives. They said, strong conservatives, is it okay to use violence against the other side if necessary? 3% of Republicans said that, and that's too many. Right. But it was something like close to 30% of Democrats. And then the somewhat used violence was like 40-something%. So that tells you what the left's about,
Well, to be fair, there are radicals on both sides, right? We know that.
Yeah, but it's very much on the left side.
Very much unbalanced, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and for example, like the left loves to say in one breath, look, free speech, free expression, free this, whatever, say what you want. But when it comes to Charlie Kirk, no. Oh, his speech is fascist, right? He's a Nazi. He's racist, right? The things he was saying, they say, is what you said, made it acceptable to take someone like him out. And that is absolutely disgusting. And I'm telling you what's coming down to. Look, the average citizen has a right to say whatever nasty, hateful thing they want to say, right? That's our Constitution. But when you're an elected official, and in this case, the Democrats, they are constantly calling Republicans and conservatives fascists, Nazis, racist, constantly. What do you think that's going to do to the youth, and what that they may? Do you think that radicalizes them?
I know it does. But here's the thing: no one's believing what they're hearing now. They're going to find the information themselves. That's why the network media, the mainstream media, is irrelevant, other than the cable news networks. I mean, Fox and stuff like that, because they're trusted, Fox and Newsmax and places like that. But the local TV channels, no one's even tuning in, because guess what? They're cutting the cable. They're tuning into what they want. They're going to YouTube. They're going to TikTok or whatever. They get this information. Now, good or bad, I always said that when social media came out, it's a downfall of society. I really believe that. I think. Yeah. I don't know if we can take it back now. So if anything, we just got to preach the truth, and we got to get the truth out there, and we got to make sure that we're combating this. And for the most part, news gets out fast. I mean, when that shooting happened, I was busy in an appointment, and within 30 minutes, I think the whole world knew.
Absolutely.
I mean, it blew up. So that's the positive about social media, is you really can get your message out there. But the youth is coming around. They're starting to question, and they're going, do we believe this? Do we believe he's a fascist? And you know what's gonna solve all of this is success. Donald Trump is winning. Yeah. He's winning big time. He's winning around the world, and this works. The conservative message is the better message. I don't understand how the left can justify anything, and they can never win an argument. So when you have an argument with a lefty, at the end you're always a racist. Or whatever, you're Hitler, or whatever it is. How about you have some dialogue like Charlie did? Yeah. Charlie would have dialogue, and he would ask him, and he would even tell him at the end, if you couldn't convince him, he'd say, we're going to agree to disagree, have a nice day, it's all good. If you watch all his videos, he was very pleasant. He wasn't, yes, he has his beliefs, and he's not going to change that. But what's wrong with that? We should have more of that out there. And if we have more of that, but the left doesn't want that, because they're not going to win the argument, because what they want makes no sense. Right. At all. Right. So, like, to me, if you're born a male, you just can't decide you're a female. Sorry, that's just not how it works.
But for some reason, they tend to listen. Well, a lot of this has to do with social media, like we already know, and the left wing media, like CNN, MSNBC, and the rest of them, who have constantly pushed this narrative of that right wing people are evil and you should accept everyone, their pronouns, their leftist views. Look, let's be clear about one thing right here. There's been gay people throughout history. the beginning of history. Right conservatives are not attacking gay people, right?
You know what I say to people all the time
Right.
is I'll say, you got to answer to your maker.
That's right.
That's not, you talk to God about that.
Yeah.
That's not my business. I don't care who you with your bed. Yeah. I don't care who you want to date. But don't force me or my kids to accept it as normal,
right.
because it's not.
Right.
I don't know what else to say to you. Just leave me out of it.
Yeah.
Do your thing. Be a free person.
But they like to make it out to be we are trying to prevent them from being what they want to be. No, they just want to.
We don't want kids mutilated.
Right.
We don't want their private parts cut off at 12. Sorry.
Men stay out of women's restrooms and locker rooms. That's all we want. Men stay out of that and stay out of sports. Stay out of women's sports. Those are some of the simple facts. Jimmy Kimmel. Let's go to Jimmy Kimmel. The left is trying to make it like Trump fired him. Trump didn't fire him. He fired himself. He got himself fired.
Well, do you know the FCC regulates broadcast media, and he was lying on the air. He was saying that it was some right wing person that did the shooting, and he was wrong. I mean, obviously, if you just go to the media outlets and see the clips, you'll see he was living with a trans man that was turning to a woman, and he was, obviously he was radicalized. His own mother and father said he was radicalized to the left. And this guy, the left is trying to paint it as an issue. Mm-hmm. And why aren't you honest about it? Why aren't you honest? And that's what it boils down to. And on top of it, it was very insensitive.
Yeah.
He could have his own beliefs. Jimmy Kimmel's allowed to have his own beliefs. Anyone on the left can have their own beliefs, right? And they can talk about them. That's fine too. But you know what? In public, there's going to be consequences, especially if you're a regulated broadcast and you're lying.
That's right.
And you're supposed to be for the greater good and for everyone. So how about I saw a clip this morning where they were talking about Johnny Carson back in the day, and then we had an interview with him, and he said, "I never touch politics, and if I do, it's a quick, funny thing.
That's right.
It's never anything about attacking anybody, because why would you want half your audience not to tune in?
That's right.
It doesn't make any sense. Even when I work for a big corporation, and that corporation, I'm not going to mention him, decided to start going with this trans stuff and all that stuff. They lost a ton of business and closed a lot of stores. And you got to sit there. And I remember working there going, before I left, or before I retired, somebody retired from there, I said, we want to sell toilet paper to everybody. Why are we getting involved? Just stay out of it. And if you look at Walmart, you don't see them getting involved. They just say, we're done. We're here to sell stuff. That's what we do.
Exactly.
And that's what it boils down to when you're running a business, is you got to think about there's going to be consequences to your words, right or left or whatever, if you're running a business. And that's what happened at ABC and Kimmel.
You're right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's shift gears. Let's go into the local information here. Now, recently last Thursday, there was a budget hearing, because we're coming down to the wire with with the budget. And last week we listened to it. It was in the evening, which was great. About where the money's going to go. Now we're reaching $1 billion here.
Where the budget was over $1 billion.
It's over $1 billion.
It was just over. No, I'm going to give you the whole story.
Okay.
But anyway, I'm going to start with the story. So I'm going to start from the beginning. Okay. So I've been in the commission 9 years. This is my 9th budget, right? Yeah. Every single year I've asked for reductions. The last 7 years, I have preached to everyone exactly what our CFO, Blaise Ngoli, is saying, that we're growing this government too much. Every year, if you go back to the tapes, and I urge the public, go look at the tapes. And every year I propose a tax decrease. I propose to cut the millage. I propose to limit government. Government should be as small as possible, right? The last 6 years we have cut the millage rate, but it wasn't enough. And I kept telling them that. I said, it's not enough. We're growing out of control. And when Blaise goes around the state, and he's doing a great job, by the way, and I support him, and he's going around the state talking about the overspending, et cetera, that's going on in some of these counties. Well, Hernando County is over $1 million, over 100% increase as well. So when he talks about Gainesville's 95%, well, we're like 130%. So how are we any different? And this is what I was preaching to the commissioners. Now, I'm going to say some positive things, even though I don't agree with 3 of the commissioners and that we've been on the wrong side of things.
Yeah.
They voted with me when I made the motion to roll back the rate, which is the maximum rate was going to be the exact same money as we had last year. So we started there. We got to the budget meeting. I said it's not enough. And I'll also put a proposal up that I want to cut 30% of the budget over the next 6 years. I mean, I'm talking about cutting taxes down 5% every year. So that way we don't have to terminate anyone. We can slowly reduce the budget. So anyway, long story short, on Thursday, I proposed they said, well, what do you want to cut? I said, let's cut 3%. So we cut 5% by rolling back the millage, and then we cut 3%, and they surprisingly went with me.
But how much does that really affect the taxpayers, the homeowners?
Well, it's I mean, 8%. I mean, do your.
I mean,
if you think about 8%,
right.
you would have been. I mean, it would have been a 5% increase. You could have been capped at 3% with a homestead.
Okay.
So you're not getting that 3% most likely unless you're way behind. There's a complicated process.
Yeah.
Because if you have saved your home for years and years, the market could be going down and your taxes could still be going up. Because your assessed value is not caught up with the market value, and that's a whole nother segment.
It's a complicated issue.
Well, government math in general,
Yeah.
you would go bankrupt if you did anything that the government does at all. You'd be bankrupt in your business, right? So if you see the government doing it, do the opposite because it's not going to work. It comes from everything, from bids on contracts to taxing to managing your money. We're just bad at all of it, you know.
Yeah.
But bottom line is it's probably 100 or 2 per house. Depending on the house, it could be 500 or 600 for a business.
Well, what did you said something, and I remember it was just unbelievable. You said about a $300,000 to $400,000 home is about what? How $6,000 a year?
A $300,000 home is $5,450 if you went by our old rate. Now it might be a little lower now that we just lowered the rate, but that's unaffordable in Hernando County.
Yeah,
I mean just 15 years ago, the average tax bill was $1,500.
Yeah,
it's tripled since then. What gives? And when I applaud our governor and our CFO for talking about getting rid of property taxes, because you really are paying rent to the government. And DeSantis said this. I helped him get elected twice. I hope he gets this done. But he said with his own words, you're renting your property for the government. If you don't pay taxes, you know what they do, right? They take your house.
Right.
They sell it. It's called a tax deed.
and you said the tax deeds were
they're skyrocketing.
blowing up.
There was 4 pages of them last month. And like a whole page was homesteaded properties.
Wow.
So that's and then there's foreclosures are creeping up too. Now there's a lot of things affecting that: insurance, our taxes.
But there's a bubble right now.
And when the bubbles, there's a semi correction going on. The interest rates aren't helping matters any.
Yeah.
And you know what? No one's secretly talking about. We know it, but they're not talking about it.
Yeah.
They're not moving to Florida now. No. They slowed down.
Yeah.
And I know this is my business. My daughter's business, where U-Hauls are not available because they're out of state. They're not coming back. So I see indications of this, and there was just a report like a month ago. I don't know the details, but they said for the first time in years there was more people leaving than coming. So there's something going on here, and my theory is that the more the northern states fix their problems politically, then nobody wants to leave their home. They leave their home because they have to. They feel they have to. They're taxed out of it. They're priced out of it, or that crime is bad. Whatever. They want to move to the free state of Florida, which I love how DeSantis said. We're the free state of Florida. So there's a storm coming, and people can't afford what's going on here, and we cannot contribute to that.
Well, you've noticed that again, like you mentioned, the governor and the CFO Blaze Ingolia have been really pushing this no more property taxes. So I mean, and it kind of goes against what some of your fellow county commissioners have. How does that look? How does that look on them? Well, what are they going to do? Are they going to change their tune?
Well, they're basically talking. I mean, I brought it up in a meeting. I said, hey, our buddy and our hometown, senator / he was also a House of Representatives member. So Blaze Ingolia, he lives here, and he's our CFO, which we're proud of him. He's doing a great job. I just donated to his campaign account because I think that he's saying the right things, and if he gets it done, I applaud it. I think it's fantastic.
Right.
And I don't disagree with his votes. So the people say stuff about him, I say, look at his votes. That's all I care about. And they'll say the same thing about me. I said, just look at my votes. Do I vote for you? And so, but anyway, so when they were bringing that up, they're doubting whether we can replace this income. And and I have some doubts too. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
And I haven't seen a plan yet. I hear talk.
Sales tax.
I hear talk. No, but the sales tax could be 12, 14 cents. That could cripple the economy too.
Yeah.
We don't know what that is. I mean, I don't. But in defense, they have not outlined a plan yet. I have not seen a plan. I hear rumors that it's only homestead property. Well, what are you going to do? Put it all on business?
Yeah.
That's not good.
Right.
Businesses are struggling as it is.
Yeah.
So I hope the plan is, and it's going to be voted on by the people, because I think it's going to be a constitutional amendment, I believe. Right. So we'll see what happens, what they come up with. But we got to see a plan first. And that's what I said in the meeting. I said, look, I want to cut property tax the next 6 years because I don't know if they're going to get what they get done. Right. Now, if they get it done, then it's a moot point. We'll go from there.
Well, let's speak about what's going to cause that vote either go the right way or the wrong way. And that is overspending, right? The budgets, what these constitutionals and the different departments want. And you have been, begging for these people to lower their requests, their proposals. And one in particular, Hernando County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Allen House, refuses flat out refuses to cut anything out of his proposed budgets. Now he'll say, "Oh well, it started at 22%, and we lowered it down to 10." Well, he says that every year. How do you know? What does it really mean? So, what is your? We'll watch a little video of this too, but. A little interaction between you and Sheriff Alninas about this. This is every year you guys go through the same darn thing, and it seems like the other commissioners just like, let's just rubber stamp. I don't care, whatever he needs. And Steve Champion wants to defund the police. That's all he wants. What's your take on that?
Well, obviously, the first to start off with, I 100% support law enforcement. I'm a real conservative. I'm as right as you can get. So whatever we need to stop crime, we're gonna do what we have to do. But we don't need this to stop crime.
Right.
We're actually. I mean, and I think the men and women of our county are doing a great job. Could we do better? Of course we can. Could we have more resources? But could you ask any person? Do you need more money, Tom?
Yeah, of course.
All right. I would say I would always need more money. I could ask anybody on the street, do you need more money?
Right.
Is there a wish list out there? Of course there is. But, when he's asking for $100 million buildings and $100 million training stuff and all that, and that's going to be up to a vote for the people. Right. And if the people vote for it, I'm all for it, because you know what? The majority, that's what democracy is about. Or we're a representative republic, but the majority would rule when it comes to stuff like that. So the majority votes for it, and then we'll spend the money. We'll see what happens. I don't think they're gonna vote for themselves a tax increase. We'll see what happens. But
yeah,
I've supported the 1 cent last time because I think it was the right thing to do. But anyway, getting back to the constitutionals, it's not that I don't support the men and women law enforcement. I've actually mentioned a couple times that I may be running in 2028 for sheriff, because I think that may be what it takes to get it fixed. I don't know, but I am livid about what's been going on here the last 9 years, and I got to remind everyone that this man was appointed by Democrat Charlie Crist. I mean, he was never in Hernando County. He is not a conservative. He is not pro Second Amendment. There's a lot of things that he's not. Right. Like, for example, we're going to get into some open carry stuff later. Yeah. He was the main person, the Sheriff's Association, pushing to prohibit your Second Amendment rights, right? So you gotta look at that too. As you could be disguised as a Republican, but are you really a Republican? And what really bothers me is the Constitution. And we had a conversation about this, about the flock cameras and stuff like that. I go, you don't have a right to track everyone on the road, and you don't even have a body camera. I know you're going to get into that, but anyway, getting back to the budget, he's had 4 straight years of double-digit increases.
Right,
he's 130% up in the last 9 years. Right, so and we've grown 12% population,
12% every single year.
And even if you calculate inflation, we're not 130%. Now, granted, are we the same in the BOCC? Absolutely. The budget's out of control everywhere, not just the sheriff. And I'm not going to point a finger at just one person. Right. But he has the biggest chunk of the pie.
Yeah.
When he's 60+%, when you take animal and you take the jail and you take the sheriff's office, it's over 60% of what the property taxes are. It's the majority of what we collect on the county side. So of course we have to look at that, because all the other stuff is crumbs. It really is. We have very little debt. And what are you going to do when you got 3 people on code enforcement? You're going to cut one of them? You don't have enough people as it is. You got the big budget. You've got to challenge the budgets. That's why, unfortunately, you have to look at fire and police and stuff like that. You have to look at that and say, we can't grow them out of control. So it's a balance. And is there a perfect answer for it? No.
Right.
And and I want the men and women of the the sheriff's office to understand that I support you 110%. It's not about not supporting the men and women out there. I think they do a great job.
Right.
It's about my job as a commissioner is to control the money. And Jerry Campbell said a few times, he goes, well, it's not our job to tell the constitutionals what to do. I said, well, you're wrong. Look up the definition of a commissioner. What do you think our main job is? You know what our main job is? There's 2 things really we do. We only have 2 employees, by the way. We don't run the county. Right. I had to remind them of that.
Right.
We set policy. We set taxes. Right? That's what we do. We control the money. That's why there's 5 of us up there.
But and to your point, it was Hawkins and Campbell. I believe Hawkins said something like, well, our main goal is public safety.
No, that's what Campbell said,
Campbell said that. Oh, it's Campbell?
Yeah,
I thought Hawkins said the same thing.
Well, he might have.
Campbell agreed, and he wouldn't even answer the question from Ryan Amsler, who asked him, aren't you willing to just negotiate? And he wouldn't even answer his question. I mean, it's like Campbell. Okay, not to jump. I'm allowed to do it, but I mean, I can say whatever I want about these guys. But Campbell, it seems like, is just absolutely whatever Sheriff Nienhuis wants, whenever, ever. He doesn't even care if he gets a reconciliation from the last year, which all you've been doing is demanding a reconciliation. Show us what you spent money on. And okay, let's get into that.
And I asked about that.
You asked about that.
I asked about it, and I said I made 2 public records requests through the county, and I didn't even want to see this year. I want to see 2024 because I really wanted to see how they spent the money. What did they spend? Because I don't know if the public knows this or not, but the constitutionals do not have to break down every single line item. Now, granted, he is obligated to give public records requests. If you do a public records request, they have to give it to you. But you know as well as I do, they don't over there. They play games with you.
Do you know what he says to you? Do you know what he says to you and he says to the public? He will not give you documents. Now, like you said, you could ask for, give me a document. He'll give you the document you asked for. That's the way public records requests go, right? But what does he say when you want a reconciliation? He says, come on into my office, sit down with me, let's talk about it. That's how he wants to do it. The public has done the same thing. That he will not go on the record. He will not publish a reconciliation. He will not provide records from the prior year. He will only ask you to come in and talk to him in his office.
Bottom line is we need to know where our money's going. I mean, I agree with what Blaze and our governor is doing. They're going around, and of course, they're supporting firefighters and police. And are those the people we need to take care of first?
Right.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why we elect a sheriff. That's why we have a fire chief. We have those people to do those jobs. But that doesn't mean we have an open checkbook. That doesn't mean that the citizens can afford to do more.
Right.
So, I mean, bottom line is if you put a vote out there, and Jerry Campbell said this when I asked him, I said, go ask the people. Go ask the people what they want. You know what he said? You can play the clip. Maybe you can play the clip and add it to this video.
I'm going to play the clip.
He said that basically they're a bunch of dumbasses. They don't know what they're talking about. I'm sorry to say that, but that's what he said. He said the public doesn't understand, and of course they will vote for no taxes. And they will vote for this and that. But in the same breath, they'll say, they want more police, and that's true to a degree. But he's basically saying, well, I'm going to make the right decision even if the public doesn't want it. And that's, to me, when the public speaks. Like, for example, when they voted down the 1 cent, and there was a lot of that capital that was in there for the sheriff's office, and we put it in there because I wanted the public to know. I'm the one that brought that up, to put it in there to, for the new sheriff station and all that stuff. And and I was for it because I think that's a fair way to tax. When it's a sales tax, it's a fair way to tax, and that way tourists are helping pay for it, et cetera. Well, the public said no. And then immediately, 1 month later, these bozos up there are asking to bond it and do it anyway. And I go, what didn't you understand about no? When the public said no, they meant no. And they go, well, they didn't say no. They just said no to sales tax. They didn't say no that we couldn't do it with taxes. I go, you're crazy. That is not what if they voted no, they voted no.
There was a flat out reason why they voted no too.
Well, I mean, so I can't speak for all the voters. But listen, I'm gonna support them. It's kind of like what happened years ago when a former commissioner said he wanted to ban pot dispensaries. I said medical marijuana passed by almost 70%.
That's right.
How are we supposed to go against the 70% of the population? I was elected to represent the majority, and the majority spoke, and they said this is what we want. So what do? Same thing with the 1 cent. But it's frustrating because we have to, as commissioners, we have to hold the line, especially when it comes to tax dollars. We've got to do what's necessary, of course, to keep people safe and to fund the agencies. But there's some things that the government doesn't need to do, and we don't solve everyone's problem. And that's what I've said over and over. I was like, we're not going to solve everyone's problem, and that's why I'm big on a Second Amendment because. No offense, but the cop shows up when you're dead already. You're already dead. They're not preventing anything. Bad guys are still going to do bad things.
That's right.
Right? So the people should be able to learn how to defend themselves, et cetera. And I really believe that. And I know our county can defend themselves. You don't break into houses around here.
That's right.
It doesn't happen. If it happens, you're more likely going to get met with a shotgun, and you're not going to have a good day.
With a majority, right?
Yeah, with a majority. Yeah.
Let's move on to a couple of things because we're running out of time here. But I want to go ahead and a couple of things I want to talk about is there's an ordinance here. I think we just discovered this, right? Someone actually let me know about this. But also I want to touch on the flock cameras and the body camera issue. But let's start with something that brought to my attention recently about a guy. Now, I don't know all the details of it yet. But someone apparently was detained, possibly given a notice to appear in court over carrying a firearm openly in Anderson Snow Park. Now, of course, Sheriff Nenice says we're not allowed to do that yet until the 25th, which is kind of in opposition to what the Attorney General said, which is you can carry now. You
Well,
can
they're not going to prosecute
now.
you. They're saying they're not going to prosecute you.
Right. So what is that something that now that you know that there's an ordinance that was I think it was 2014-03 was the ordinance of Hernando County. That's something you've already, now that I've notified you about it, you're going to bring up.
I just found out about it, and I just messaged the administrator. But anyway, let me regress a little bit and say that for the people out there that haven't been watching, it was the open carry law prohibiting open carry was challenged. It's unconstitutional, and a judge struck it down and said it is unconstitutional. And by the way, just for listen, there's people out there, even gun owners and pro Second Amendment, that says, why do you need to carry an open? Well, I probably won't carry any open, but it's your constitutional right.
Right.
So there's no option there when it comes to that. And you know what? And when it comes to police safety and things like that, if I was a cop, I would much rather walk up to you, see the gun on your side, and guess whether you have one on you.
Wouldn't that be great?
So I think that's a good thing. Now, and Sheriff Nenice, he led the charge to prohibit open carry. People need to understand that. But it's not surprising from a Charlie Crist appointee. And, it's not surprising.
Yeah, exactly.
And he is not a conservative anyway. No. So he is upset about this, but too bad. Yeah. Too bad the Constitution trumps you. No pun intended. But anyway, so that's going to be law of the land after the 25th, because guess what? Our governor is for it. Our attorney general is not challenging it, and guess what? We're going to go with the governor, and the governor's not. There's not going to be any appeals on that. So that's going to be a law of the land.
Yeah,
and it's going to be open carry, which I think we finally got some of our rights back. Now, as far as that ordinance goes, I just found out about it.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, I will be bringing it up to eliminate that ordinance, because we should abide by whatever the law is of the state of Florida and the law of the federal government. Period. That's it.
Just like the HEV issue. Remember that?
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing.
I want no additional laws in Hernando County that are above and beyond what the state and what the federal government. I think they do too much already. I think some of those laws need to be eradicated, because there's so much garbage out there. I mean, why can't we just stick to the basics in government? Stick to the basics.
Yeah.
And if you break the law, you break the law, and you hold them accountable. That's what? It's ignorance is no excuse, right? They sort of say all the time. Right. Just like I was telling you about the parks. I go, I'd be leery about carrying in a park, because if there's a game going on, that's a federal law. It says you cannot have a firearm when there's a sporting event going on, a kid's sporting event, any sporting event.
Okay.
If you're at a soccer game, you cannot carry a gun. So you need to know to protect yourself, because you will get hooked up and you will get charged with a crime if you're carrying in one of those places. So no federal buildings, no police stations, no school in a school building.
Of course.
Now, granted, I think
banks,
government building. No banks.
Exactly.
You can go in a gun.
Right.
You can go with a gun. I carry my gun in the bank all the time. Unless they have a sign on the door that says no gun, you can carry a gun in a bank.
Okay.
So
unless you're notified.
If I have a bunch of money on me, I'm carrying a gun. And even when I go I'm carrying a gun right now. I'm not a prohibited place.
Yeah.
I'm going everywhere with a gun. I've been threatened before too. And by the way, even with what's going on
as an elected official,
I've been.
It's even more important that you do.
Now, I've been to meetings in Citrus County and other places where there's no cop there, and they prohibit me from carrying a gun because it's a government meeting, and I'll walk out. I'll say, I will not stay here unless you can guarantee my protection. And if you can't guarantee my protection, then I need to protect myself. I need to have a gun.
Right.
And that hasn't passed yet. There's been some talk about allowing the BOCC members, because not everyone's in the courthouse.
Who's in charge of making that decision?
Well, that was supposed to go to a vote, but
statewide or
legislative.
Statewide, okay.
And it's been on there several times. I think the appetite for it is probably going to come back up, especially after Charlie Kirk's assassination. And you've heard, did you hear about the city council member? I forget what state it was in. Somebody came in and poured gasoline on him and lit him on fire.
Holy shoot.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens out there that's going on. And, I've had a lot of people and family members say, you need to be careful, protect yourself. Because I'm outspoken.
You're outspoken.
And I tell people what I think. And you know what? The people elected me to do the right thing. And I tell you what, there's not a vote that I make that I think that I believe I'm doing the right thing for the people. And I think that I know they agree with me.
You better be careful, Steve. And I mean that sincerely, because there are wackos out there, as we've seen. And they're losing their minds. And it's not, look, the reason they are is because of the narrative that's being pushed on to these, especially younger people, this leftist, hateful rhetoric against Christians, conservatives, and everything else. So, yeah, be aware. But I want to change gears here real quick. That's the last thing I want to get to real quick is the flock versus body cameras. And we already know Sheriff Nina Heist here in Hernando County is so vehemently against body cameras that he tries everything. I'm going to put it to you this way. He, in a recent meeting, I don't remember which date it was, but he said that if you guys pass a sales tax and give me this $1 million or whatever, 100 million, okay, whatever he wanted is millions and millions of dollars, I'll go ahead and get these body cameras for you. But you got to do that. I call that extortion. You do this. I'm going to force the taxpayers to pay all this money, and then I'll give you transparency and accountability. What do you think about that?
Well, we beat this horse a bunch of times now. We'll say it again, but it's all politics.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't cost that much for body cameras. Look,
Right.
Citrus County has them. They're doing a great job with them.
300 grand a year is about the average.
And you know what? We at Citrus County, the incumbent sheriff got ousted. Guess what? Taxes spin, liberal, anti-body cameras. He lost 60-something% to 30-something%.
Yep.
Right? We got to make a change. People need to vote. We haven't had a fair election for sheriff in this county since 1984. There's been somebody appointed, some backdoor deal made with everyone. I'm calling for a 2028, a fair election.
A fair election.
Because I got a feeling he's going to bow out and try to point somebody. And I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to make a big stink about it. But anyway, getting to the cameras, right? So I've told you my feelings about that. If you're a body camera, you're stopping someone's free will and freedom. If you pull me over, I don't have a choice to get pulled over.
That's right.
You force me to because I broke the law. I broke a traffic violation.
Probable cause.
Right, probable cause.
Right.
Probable cause, I ran a red light, whatever I did, right? I pull over, I roll my windows down, I comply with the officer, of course. But that interaction is not optional.
Yeah.
Right? So I should be recorded to protect me and to protect the officer.
Right.
And you know what? It's more conservative and it's more productive because it's been proven that 97% of those crimes, that when you got it on video, listen, if you pull me over and I'm falling down drunk driving, I'm not going to plead not guilty. I'm going to try to make a deal because it's on camera.
There's video.
You know, so to me, I look at it and say, I'm saving the prosecutor's money. I got no doubt whether the person is guilty or innocent.
Yeah.
And if they are innocent, and instead of someone spending all this money to defend themselves, the prosecutor can go, Tom, you're clearly not guilty.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Kind of like, well, I ain't
Throw
gonna get
it.
all that, but but anyway. So, but the flock cameras, the difference is, no one's committed a crime. It's kind of like pre-crime. You heard that? You saw that movie before, where you're tracking them, and and they're tracking you. That's what they're doing. They're tracking your plate, and they're keeping that data forever. They know one day they're going to go back and say, "Do you want to know where Steve Champion's been driving?" And they track me. To a target. They track me here, they track me there. Before you know it, they're using that for taxes. Before you know it, they're using that for whatever to use against you, and they're tracking you with no probable cause. It is not acceptable. It's not constitutional. And that's why you're seeing municipalities being sued all over the country. And it's flock care. Go to their site. I challenge you. Go to their site and look how they're advertising. They're doing it for private businesses. Yeah, they're putting them in parking lot of businesses. Where they're getting information from. When the business says, we want to track who's in the parking lot, is the government giving them that information?
Yeah.
Is it public information? I don't want my tag and my information being public to everybody. I don't want anyone knowing where I'm going because I'm a free person. Like, I don't understand that. Now, the difference is the state troopers, when they have a camera on their car and they're in the car, then they're scanning plates. I don't have any problem with that because the deputy is there. The law enforcement officer is there. You know, but a robot camera that's tracking everything you do, unacceptable.
Let me break in right there real quick because I remember Hawkins talking about this and Campbell talking about this, trying to make this excuse that, it's exactly the same as Flock. No, it is not. Flock is a database. Flock collects information about where you've been, every place you've been. They track you, they put it, and guess who can access that information? Federal government, local governments, any government can access that. This is not video. This is not just body cams or dash cams. Yes, you can request that.
I said it's communism because it is.
It is. It is not the same as body cams.
It's a deep state. And you know what? Once you give up your rights, you never get them back.
Right.
And you know what? We've seen that. And we're in our people, and American people, we're resilient. They're starting to take this government back. And that's why you're seeing the movement around the country. We're tired of this. We're not just going to accept it. We're not going to be politically correct anymore. You know, I mean, if you got to speak the truth. And you know what? I told them, the same thing I told the commissioners. I go, put it out there for referendum and see if people want to be tracked. It will fail 80-20. But they know better than you do. They know better about your freedom than you do. And to me, he made a mention that he saw 4 murders with it.
And I've requested information on those 4 murders.
We'll see.
Nothing.
But
Nothing, no response.
Do I think this will solve some crimes? Yes. But then I quoted Benjamin Franklin's quote where he was, you cannot, I don't remember a specific quote, but it was basically, you cannot give up freedom for some sense of safety.
Of one person being,
So if 99 criminals got away, but you kept one innocent person from being a victim,
right.
then it has to happen that way. Unfortunately, it has to. You have to figure out a way to catch the criminals another way. You cannot sacrifice. It's the same thing, and I said this in a meeting, it's the same thing with gun control.
Yes.
You want to take my gun away, but 99% of the people are law-abiding citizens. You want to take my gun away because of the 1%? And the body camera thing, I would urge people that are watching, watch YouTube and watch the bad stuff that happens that's caught on camera.
Yeah.
And guess what we do? We catch the bad guys that are lying on the cops and they're saying they're racist and they're saying they beat them. They say they did all this stuff. And clearly, you look at a video and they didn't, right?
Right.
So we're protecting the officers, right?
Right.
And then there's an occasional, human beings are involved in all this stuff.
Of course.
There's an occasional bad cop, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying 99.9% are probably fantastic, right? But there's that bad apple makes them all look bad. So when you catch that bad apple with the video and you're clearly violating a person's constitutional right and they get off with not guilty, then guess what? We discipline that officer.
That's right.
And we make sure they're not above the law either. When you get pulled over, you should be treated with respect.
That's
you
right.
should be. They investigate a crime. It's never personal. It's about law and order. And you know what? I think everyone agrees with that. I think if you ask, no matter what side you're on, you want to be fair.
That's
You
right.
want to be fair when it comes to law enforcement because they're protecting. And we need them badly. We need law enforcement.
Oh, God,
they're doing a
yeah.
fantastic job because we cannot have criminals running this country. And you're seeing what a great job. Not to get off another topic, but what Trump is doing in Memphis and Washington D.C.
Absolutely.
And look here. We had a red governor going, "Come on in." Memphis is #1 murder capital. D.C. is like
Welcome
#2.
him. Yeah.
Let's. And these are black on black crime, and they keep talking about races. Trump is trying to fix the young black men that are dying on the street. Yeah, I mean, God forbid we care about these black lives that are being taken away and snuffed out when these are teenagers. It's unacceptable. It should not be happening in the United States of America. So I applaud what he's doing, by the way. I'm not going to apologize for that because I support him 110%.
And let's close with that. Let's close with a message about that because, look, I support, you support, we all support law enforcement. If you're a conservative, especially if you support law enforcement, we need law enforcement.
Yep.
And look, when it fails in some counties, in some countries, some states, because the leadership in those jurisdictions refuse to do what's right to help save lives and property and protect property, well, then we might need someone like Donald Trump to come in and push and bring in the National Guard. You got to take drastic measures sometimes to save lives. And that's where we're at right now. There's so many places like Chicago, like Memphis, like Manhattan, like LA. There are so many places right now that are so just full of crime. You got to put things behind glass doors now.
How about the girl?
Yeah.
I mean,
the beautiful girl from North Carolina.
I couldn't even hold the tears back, and I'm not like a tear-jerking guy, man.
I am.
I cried
and that
like
broke
2
my
times
heart.
in a week over her and Charlie Kirk because I thought it was so horrible. That young girl comes here to escape the tyranny that's going on there, the invasion going on in her country. Comes here legally, by the way, legally.
Yes.
She was getting off of work and getting on the bus or subway, whatever it was, a train. And a random guy, some nut job that should have been in jail, stabs her to death, and 5 people are standing there doing nothing. But you know why? I can't blame those people for standing there doing nothing. You know why? Because the last guy that interfered in New York and saved lives, they tried to prosecute him and put him in prison.
Right.
So guess what people are doing? They're sitting there going, hey, I'll tell you what, if I saw that happening, he would have had a bullet. No, there would have been a bullet.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're saying.
I would have shot him. And you know what? In North Carolina, you're allowed to.
They carry there.
A forcible felony like that, you could have easily defended that woman. And we'd have one less thug off the street.
That was so horrible.
But the guy's arrested 14 times. He's let out with cashless bail, everything. This girl was totally innocent. And you know what? She's been lost in a shuffle with everything going on with Charlie Kirk.
His own family were begging for him to be institutionalized. Yeah. This was horrible. I mean, this guy, whether he's mentally disabled, whatever his problems are, it doesn't matter. He didn't need to be on the street.
You know what's going to solve it all?
What's that?
A quick conviction and a quick death.
That's right.
We've got to put them down. When these people commit first degree premeditated murder, they got to be put down. publicly even. I mean, maybe you need to go back to that. I know it sounds extreme, but have you, and you know for sure, I'm saying you know for sure, like you have video evidence, obviously, this happened, right?
Yeah.
Now, if there's any doubt, of course you should go through the whole process, and you know, we'd hate to execute an innocent person.
Right.
But in this case, he's clearly a murderer.
A murderer.
He clearly, unprovoked, just randomly just stabbed her to death. He needs to be put to death. Well, this guy that shot Charlie Kirk, he needs to be put to death. I don't care. They obviously have mental illness. Anyone that would take someone else's life is mentally unstable.
But an assassination?
I mean, it's great. Both of them were assassinations.
Right.
You think about it?
Right.
I mean, they were. In front of people on video.
Look, let's close with this. Yeah. There is so much hate speech going on in our country right now, and I am going to point the finger at the left. Look, the right. Well, we don't like leftist narratives. We don't we don't agree with a lot of stuff that they say. But the leaders, the Democrat leaders, need to shut their mouths with calling people fascists, Nazis, and calling for violence. They are calling for violence.
They said to punch them in the face if you see them, or disrupt them in a restaurant and stuff. I would never do that.
What does that do?
Ever do that? Ever say that about a Democrat?
No.
And
no,
you know what?
We would never do that.
And you know what I said one time? You know, when you know, I've been political a long time, and you know, I don't have any respect for these Democrat cities. But when they attacked us on 9/11,
right?
You know what I said? Well, they might be Democrats, and I don't agree with them, but they're our people. Right? These are Americans.
That's right.
And you know what? Whether they're Democrats or Republicans, they're Americans, and that's what it should be. These Democrats should be like, you know what, Charlie Kirk? If they disagree with him, fine. But you shouldn't be celebrating a man that just got his life taken away, and his kids and his wife have no father and husband now. I mean,
horrible.
Like, are you even a human?
Right. How evil is that?
I would never, ever, as much as I can't stand these Democrats or in the House of Representatives or senators or even our ex-president, I would never, ever celebrate their death.
Never.
If something happened to them.
I don't care if they were a Democrat. Yeah. Look, we celebrate Martin Luther King. Right?
I think he was a good man. I think he was a good man.
He had some faults, but we
right.
celebrate him because of the work that he did to bring civil rights to the black community, right? Thank God for that, right? We wanted that. Even as conservatives, we wanted to see that happen. Yeah. We're all equal, right? Yeah. Let me say this, though, and I'm gonna shift a little bit. Let me ask you directly here, Steve. Would you support, and I did this on a post in social media, would you support, and I'm talking privately funded, not taxpayer funded, would you support a memorial for Charlie Kirk on, let's say, courthouse grounds, some public grounds somewhere? Would you support that?
I would support that, just like I support a Martin Luther King memorial on the courthouse grounds, and we put it out there for the public, and we even have a committee and stuff for it, but no one wants to work to get it done. Okay. Of course I would. You know, I think you're going to see a lot of that. Okay. I think this man, he's not going to be forgotten. Because he's made a difference. And I don't know if you know, they're having the stadium, and they're already, all the tickets are claimed already
Sunday,
for his funeral. The stadium is full.
Nevada?
You know, did you see that London with 1 million people marching the streets with Charlie signs? This is a foreign country. That's how much, you know, the man, you know, when I tell you, they say that you really don't get the press until you're gone.
Right.
But now that you look back, and I would urge people, go watch his videos. They're all over YouTube. Watch them. And you find something that was racist. Find something that was fascist. I mean, the man was speaking truth. And then when they brought up this garbage that they were like indoctrinated with in college, he goes, you're wrong. And he would give facts. And he would state case law, and he would recite the Bible. He was much smarter than me. I can't remember all that stuff. He's too old, you know. But that guy was like, you know, he didn't even have a college degree. He was a very intelligent man, and they couldn't stop him. They couldn't win the argument. So guess what? Just like when I'm having a conversation with a liberal,
right? They
can't win the argument with me. So then at the end, I'm a racist, or I'm this, or I'm that.
Of course.
But at the end, they couldn't win the argument with Charlie. But then he would just smile at him when they called him a racist or whatever, or called him whatever. But they couldn't stop him, so they had to kill him. And that's what they tried to do to Donald Trump. They cannot stop him. The movement is here. And you know what, by the way? Trumpism is spreading around the world.
Oh, yeah.
It's spreading everywhere because the same problems are in Europe right now.
Have you seen what's happening with Europe?
Well, they're
turning back to...
They're turning back to the right, and they have to, because that's what we're founded on. Yeah. I tell you, it's just... And it's common sense, Tom. It's common sense. when you look at it.
Well,
And luckily, we don't have that problem in our county. As much as we bicker about little things and the stuff we're talking about,
yeah.
they really are small compared to the national things.
Yeah.
But they're no less important to our people.
Right.
But at least we don't have that. We don't have that kind of discord in the county.
That's
and
true.
we don't have any of those marches and stuff where people are calling people names and stuff
That's
that I
true.
know of, at least.
That's true.
You know.
That's true. Thank you, Steve Champion, for
Thanks for
joining
having
me
me.
again today. And we'll bring you back again next time.
Thanks for having me.
And that's all we have today on Get Real. We'll see you next time.